Nursing. What a competitive field it is. College students spend hours and hours studying to assure their acceptance into nursing programs. GPAs upwards of 3.5 are necessary to get into these schools, which we all know is difficult to obtain in college and takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And after all that schooling they just devote their times to, they then devote their lives to caring for strangers. They see things that most of us could never imagine. Also, one of my grandmothers was a nurse, and the other was head of hospital administration. So I've heard some of the intense stories. My grandma, who was the BSN, is a huge reason for me wanting to go into the medical field, specifically as a geriatric physical therapist. I've looked up to her my entire life, and I can remember spending the day at her house. But then her leaving for work at about 7 p.m. and getting back home about 7 a.m. She did all of this up until 65 years old, which I find very inspirational and admirable. It really is a commitment when you join this career, but any nurse will tell you how rewarding it is, even if there are some intense hours and some draining moments. I give them all the props in the world. They see people die almost every single day. People they have grown connections with and people they have grown to really care about. They put their emotions aside and work with such grace and such strength. Additionally, especially within the last year, jobs of nurses have changed completely due to the pandemic. Nurses now work even longer hours, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, when we did not know as much about COVID. Nurses and doctors worked in fear. I'm sure when they learned they were caring for a COVID-positive patient, it's almost as though time had stopped for them. They feared for their lives, their patients' lives, and possibly even their families' lives. What will I do if I test positive? What if I give it to my family? What will I do if I lose a patient to this? Are all questions I'm sure they ask themselves every day. Nurses had to learn a new resilience because of the pandemic that most of us non-medical workers would not understand. Luckily, we have much more knowledge about COVID now that it is not as dangerous as we all once thought it was in the beginning, but I still commend nurses for all of their work and time during that period. Even though I do not understand their experiences, I am so grateful for it. Ultimately, the nursing field is cutthroat, heartbreaking, and overall just a roller coaster. One day they may be covered in throw up by a patient, and the next they may be celebrating a patient being cancer-free. It is a whirlwind that we may not all get to experience, but I am eternally grateful for their hard work, dedication, and strength all throughout their careers, and I'm sure they wouldn't change their career for the world.